the center of it all. You're having a ball and you're really doing fine. A West Coast time, and I believe you. But here's one for the coast, the people with the most, the pretty, pretty folks, the West Coast folks. Yeah, here's one for the coast, and the people with the most, the pretty, pretty folks, the West Coast folks. And here we go again, it's never gonna end. We're all so sick of California song. Yeah, we know you love LA, there's nothing left to say. Please no more California song. And fuck New York too. Yeah, your heaven is a lie. Just my shit that I don't buy. When they're heading for the coast, they're moving out in droves, sending back reports on the radio. The message is the same, it's getting pretty lame. California dreaming's on the radio. And here we go again, it's never gonna end. We're all so sick of California song. Yeah, we know you love LA, there's nothing left to say. Please no more California song. And here we go again, it's never gonna end. We're all so sick of California song. Yeah, we know you love LA, but there's nothing left to say. Please no more California song. And fuck New York too.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is 9:05 p.m. Eastern Time in Ontario, parts, I guess, everywhere in Ontario, Canada. I think that would make sense. I don't think any parts of Ontario are in a different time zone, unless the way things work have changed. Apologies right off the top. We were supposed to come on here and do a solo watch party. That will have to be rescheduled, and I know the guys and I have already talked about potentially doing 2 watch parties in the month of April to make up for it. I know we've discussed the possibility of watching the final arc of the Clone Wars, which definitely deserves attention. I remember we reviewed that when it came out and had a lot of fun with that, Johnny and I and some other people. But here we are tonight with a Welcome to the Geekside for the first time in a bit, and you're still going to get a little bit of Star Wars talk, maybe expectations around Yoda in The Acolyte. Will we see him? How much will we see him? And then there was a pretty big Raw last night, and definitely some more mature content happening over there. WrestleMania is around the corner, and House of the Dragon dropped not 1, but 2 trailers at the exact same time. And they essentially want you to pick a side. And that's just right around the corner. Joining me as always, sort of took over hosting duty for him tonight when we did the show change. He's a little worse for wear tonight, but he's here. What's going on, Johnny?
I'm I'm doing as well as I can. I'm down a wing, but I'll survive.
Randy, how about you, my man? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Obviously, with the fact that next week I'm making the trip to Philadelphia for Wrestlemania, it's time is kind of going a little slow for me right now. The excitement is just kind of building, and yeah, I can't wait.
Well, I mean, I will wish you safe travels ahead of time, which seems like a fitting time to maybe address something really important off the top here. A couple of things, actually, because I see a message in the chat from a longtime viewer of projects that Johnny and I have done. Our friend George says today is the 4th anniversary of the passing of his late wife, Diana. George, I remember that happening. Man, you've been around since the early days of Star Wars Wastelands, and I'll say the same thing I said to you then. You ever need someone to talk to, my friend? Yeah, we're just a message away, man, and we appreciate the support that you've given us over the years, regardless of the content that we put out. We've obviously done all sorts of things. So definitely thinking of you today, and I hope you're hanging in there, man. You got people that care about you, and we love you, dude. Also, pretty god awful event happened in Baltimore, and more than likely has cost several people their lives. A ship. I don't want to get into what happened or what didn't happen, but the gist of it is a ship crashed into a bridge and the bridge collapsed. It was a very big bridge, and pretty graphic scene if you've seen the video floating around social media. And just our thoughts are with everybody affected by that. It just goes to show you life is delicate, and the people that were on there would have had almost no chance other than luck. Like you don't see it coming. You have no idea what's happening. And I know there's a construction crew on there that sounds like most of them are either missing or have passed. So just thoughts with them. Live your life to the fullest. Live every day like it's your last. Take nothing for granted. That being said, let's try to move on with the show and get into some more uplifting things. Fellas, I've seen some discourse online since the Acolyte came out. We talked about it offline a little bit, just the toxicity around Star Wars and just fandom in general. And like I hate to be the bearer of bad news. That shit's going nowhere, no matter what it is, whether it's a big Marvel movie, a big DC movie, a big Star Wars movie, a big anything movie. You are going to get people that love it and people that hate it, and the people that love it sometimes go too far and get toxic, just as toxic as the people that hate the product. And we're trying to avoid that stuff and maybe talk about a little bit more of a fun topic. Yoda is obviously around at the time of the High Republic. My question to you guys is 8 episodes. Are we going to see him, and what will his role what will be the size of his role? Like, how much screen time do you anticipate Yoda getting, if any? I'll start with Randy.
Obviously, I'm pretty sure there'll probably at least be mentions. If we do see him, it probably will be brief. I feel like, given his, I don't know how powerful he really is by now, but still, I would assume that he is out doing Jedi business elsewhere. And like I said, you may see him briefly. I don't think it's going to be anything crazy. I think it'll just give you that nod that he's there in the universe, that he's not that far away. But I feel like if he gets too much screen time, it runs the risk of kind of ruining the story because of just how strong of a Jedi we know he is. So yeah, I think it's gonna be brief. There'll be mentions of him. Maybe you never, maybe no, there'll be maybe there hollows of him like training, whatever. But it's not going to be anything too crazy, just because you don't need people focusing. Oh, there's Yoda. Why isn't he in the rest of the story when it's not really a story about him?
Johnny?
I mean, I think a character like that is too significant to be there but not be a part of it. So I think he'll definitely be a part of it, but it's not going to be a big part. You know, we're going back far enough past that we don't have any sort of clarification on what his status would be in the Jedi Order at this point. You know, he could be on the Council, he could be at Night, he could still be a Padawan at this point for all we know. You know, other than to know his species lives ridiculously long and he was very old by the time we see him, come the original trilogy, it's hard to say when his training started or, for his in relation to his species age. We've seen with Grogu that,
We know
their
he's a
species.
Jedi Master at this point, though. The High
We do know
Republic.
he's a master at this point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe even the Grand Master still at this point. He's still quite late in his life at this point.
Oh, yeah, but, he'll be there, he'll be around, but I don't think he'll be a significant part of the story. I think you'll probably see him in, like, Jedi Council scenes, if that's, something he's a part of at this point. Then, as we learned with Anakin, you don't have to be on the Council to be a master and vice versa. So who knows whether or not
don't you
he's
throw
there.
that shade. Don't you?
So, it's hard to say if he's on the Council yet or not. But if he is, will probably be the extent of his appearances in the Council. Maybe not even until the end, when they're sort of updating them on what's going on, or we see him as sort of a the wise Yoda that we came to see at certain points in the prequel trilogy. So I mean, I think he'll be there, he'll be around, but he's not going to be as prevalent as he was in the prequel trilogy. It'd be probably more akin to the original trilogy, and I guess even the sequel trilogy at that point.
Yeah, I'd be pretty shocked if he's not in it at all. But I do think his appearance could be far more minimal than people are hoping for. Like the Jedi Council scene, it might even be something like where he's just a hologram in that scene in his seat, like we've seen in the prequels, rather than actually physically be there. I do know during this time of the High Republic, Coruscant's still the Mecca, but they got some other locations going on at this point. So it's tricky, right? Like you're doing a time slot where people are going to want to see a slightly younger Yoda. Hey, George, what's going on, buddy? Long time no see. Other George. There's too many Georges. Johnny and I know another George. Haven't heard from him in years. But no worries, man. We're going to get to wrestling. Wrestling will be not too long from now. But I think people want to see a young Yoda. But I also think you have built this series on a bunch of new characters that we don't know. And if you give them Yoda, even like a 5-minute, scene in episode 1, it's going to take away from everything that you're building. And I don't think you can give him Yoda at the very end either. I think Yoda's going to be kind of like Anakin was in Ahsoka, somewhere smack dab in the middle and not anywhere close to the same amount of screen time that Anakin got. I'm guessing it'll be a scene or two. And I think the Jedi Council option that I think Johnny brought it up it makes a ton of sense, right? There'll be reason for the Jedi Council to be involved. And it's a way to have him be a part of it, but not have him be the sole focus.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that.
All right, let's shift gears here, fellas. House of the Dragon season 2 came out, or the trailers for them came out. Anyways, did you guys have a chance to check them out?
I did.
Johnny?
Nope.
Oh.
Okay.
That would have been good to know before we went live. You just avoiding them intentionally, even though you know a bunch of shit that can't figure that one out.
It's mostly that. I just trailers have been more harmful than helpful for me in the last few years. You know, as they get more and more sort of, I don't want to say spoilery, but they get more and more like that. That they either show you everything or they show you nothing, and it's,
I think
if I
these guys.
don't need to get hyped for something, then I'm going to skip trailers whenever possible. That's just the way I do it.
I think these guys nailed their trailers. Like, there's nothing too spoilery in this, at all. I think a lot of movies should take a tip from how these guys did these trailers in terms of preparing someone for a project without giving it all away. Now, if you know certain events that might happen earlier in the season, so there might be one shot with a couple of people walking where people go, "Huh? Wait." And you won't recognize the people unless you know. But Randy, I fucking loved these. I loved the marketing style. Like, they're trying to get you to choose between Team Black and Team Green, and we just recorded a House of the Empire episode that'll go tomorrow on the Legacy of Westeros channel. And Zach and I discussed, how, hey, like, if you're looking at Team Black and Team Green right now as they stand after 10 episodes, Team Green being Alicent and Aegon and Kristen Cole and company, and Team Black being Rhaenyra and Daemon and Corlys and Rhaenys. To me, anyways, just solely based off season 1, it would feel like you'd have to be a little bit fucking nuts to be on Team Green.
A little bit.
There's not much, raw there to go for Team. Otto's great. Don't get me wrong. Fantastic character. And I think both the actors that played Alicent in the younger version and older version, I think the older one's Olivia Cook, are fantastic in the role. Otto reminds me of Littlefinger. But just in terms of having rooting interest, I don't see why you'd be on Team Green after season 1. Now, Johnny, I'm going to allude to something here, but we're not going to go full spoiler, but I know because you and I have discussed it a little bit. There might be certain very controversial events that happen very early in this season that might make you change that stance. Is that fair to say? And like, don't you? I said to Zach the other day, I think this show's goal, I don't think they're necessarily going to hit it, but if they can make you at any point during the season go, you know what? Let me consider Team Green a little bit more, then they will have hit a grand salami. I'm not saying they're going to do it because I think that task is so difficult, but obviously the event I'm referring to definitely adds to that.
Well, your illusions are vague and cheesy.
Oh, and yours weren't there, huh? You want to get bloody, my friend?
No, I mean, it's.
I feel like Randy was completely lost there, which is a good thing. You're safe, Randy. Unless you're not.
I'm definitely safe, but
Good.
Just from what I've seen, like the way season 1 ended, everything we learned in Game of Thrones about the Targaryen bloodline, like there's just certain things where you kind of go, these guys are going to go completely batshit insane crazy and do some really shady shit. So it's like, yeah, I can see where you're coming from, even though I don't know what's going to happen or what could happen. But just based on the knowledge I've gained just from those two things alone, I could see where that is something that I can see them trying to do, is giving you like, Team Green's looking pretty good right now. But I loved both trailers. I thought it was really well done. It gives you sets the tone for what potentially the season's going to be, and it really gives you interesting takes for both sides. And it's a shame that Johnny doesn't like to be trailers, because these things really aren't. They weren't spoilery. They were like little moments that helped paint a very small picture that fits into the grand scheme of what they're trying to do.
They were very well done, and everybody in Hollywood needs to take note of these trailers and the marketing specifically and how they're doing it. Not that it would apply to every movie, because you need to not necessarily have rooting interests, multiple rooting interests in a movie to do this marketing, but you at least need to have multiple point of view characters to be able to do this style of marketing. And not every movie necessarily has that, or show rather. But they killed it. I loved it. I'm stoked for the season. We're about to start episode 9 of our House of the Dragon rewatch here. We'll be doing a bunch on the channel for that leading up to the debut, and then the review series like we did for House of the Dragon season 1 on Monday nights. I will say this in terms of House of the Dragon. I think it's a steep task to try to get anybody to cheer for Team Green. But Johnny, did you happen to know or notice what day they chose to debut the season? Like this upcoming season. It's a very significant, to a point. Zach and I got talking yesterday and we're like, that feels very intentional.
It didn't hit for me. It didn't register.
June 16th. Anybody know what June 16th is in 2024? Father's Day. And all I'm going to say is people might want, if you want to watch social media explode in controversy after an episode airs, watch this first episode. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. I've seen the title of the first episode, and it's there's nothing in season 1. I mean, there was controversial things in season 1, of course, and like that's part of what Game of Thrones is: push the envelope, make it risky, get people talking. But this event that Johnny and I have been, talking to and cheesing up, there's nothing. I think, Johnny, you remember season 1, I'm assuming, at least mostly. There's nothing in season 1 that comes close to that event that we're alluding to. The pilot's the closest thing, and I don't even think I can say that.
Yeah, I'd say that's the closest thing. And it's still a completely different thing. It's all about how they do it, and that's going to be.
I thought they might leave out one part of that particular sequence.
It's all about how they end up doing it, and that's going to be the sort of barometer for where it ranks on that scale. Because there's opportunities to go in one direction, there's opportunities to go in another direction, and there's opportunities to, choose your own adventure and pick an entirely new direction. Yep. So
they have that with their whole built-in unreliable narrator.
Exactly. It's all about how they play that event, and so like it's going to be interesting to see how they use that event, as sort of a catalyst going forward, because it is a very divisive event, both in the community and
yeah, because I mean, in one hand, there's a reason to go, if you're all about, a certain course of action, whether that's vengeance or revenge or whatever, you fist pump, and then maybe you think, oh, well, maybe Order 66 in Revenge of the Sith was a little much. Maybe you didn't need to slaughter them that way, Palpatine. But I'll say this is, Johnny made reference to this with Star Wars a couple weeks ago, I believe, in terms of like people online saying they're never gonna watch again and bashing it, and then they're the first people to be there the opening night. Well, I guarantee you, people will see this episode, and you're going to have some people say, "That's it. They've crossed a line." If they do it like we think they might, and I can't go back to watching that. and then those same people are going to tune in the following Sunday to see if they can one up that. So that's Game of Thrones to a T in terms of what their TV stuff has been, constantly trying to one up one another. So that's not far away, and I'm really excited. I believe Johnny and Randy will be some part of our House of the Dragon review team. I know we're planning on Sunday night immediate reactions, then the typical Monday night. I think we did Monday nights for season 1. The following night, sort of like in-depth breakdown review of it. The immediate reaction stuff won't be long. So, anywho, tune into that. We're somehow less than 3 months away from the Acolyte and House of the Dragon, which is just kind of bonkers. George wants to know our quick thoughts on X-Men 97's first 2 episodes. Johnny, I'm going to send this one to you, man.
Well, I watched them both last week with some friends in a Discord call, so that was fun. It's intriguing. It's 25 years ago, and I'm a 10-year-old watching this on Saturday morning. That's the best part of it. I love seeing where this goes, and not just the little boy, the little Saturday morning cartoon watching version of me is excited to see this, but the grown man comic book fan of me is excited because there's so many things that I'm seeing in these first 2 episodes that I'm like, oh, this is happening. Oh, this is happening. Oh, we're going there. We're doing this. And then there's other parts that have me scratching my head like, wait, where are we going with this? And I'm very excited for that, the episode that drops tomorrow night is going to be a big one for me. I am excited to see where this is going. I'm excited to see where the events are going, and I want to know... I have so many questions and so few answers right now, and I love it.
You know what, Randy, go ahead.
So I think, Johnny, I know what you're alluding to. I don't know. I know Sean hasn't watched all of episode 2 yet, so I'm not going to go into depth into what you're referring to. But yeah, like the nostalgia was there for me. I admit I got a little emotional times because like the music and just hearing some of the same voice actors and just getting to kind of jump right back into where things left off when I was a teenager. It really was so well done, and it hit all the right buttons for me. I love the action they have. I love just the character personalities. They really nailed it coming back to this. I kind of hope that this does well enough that who knows, maybe even we'll get kind of a continuation from the Spider-Man series that always came on right after this. So, but we'll see.
Don't tour me with that, Randy. Because the ending to that was even worse than the ending to X-Men.
I know.
Like that now see the problem with that is now Madam Web is toxic, and I don't see them coming back to that.
Everything's toxic though, like we talked about.
Pretty much.
They'll find
it's a different kind of toxic right now. Like it's hazardous toxic.
Well, you can blame Sony for that.
I do blame Sony for that. Believe me.
But no, the show hit it all.
Show up. Although they also just fired the showrunner, I believe. So
they did.
We know what that was from because I mean, from the first.
No, we don't.
First
they're staying very tight-lipped on that.
Yeah, that's an odd, right? So,
and for the record, I'm referring to the ending of episode 2. That was my my thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The thing I really like about it is they could have done, hey, we're doing a sequel series, but we're gonna have just completely modern day animation, and like, make no mistake, if you look closely, it is not the exact same animation that they used in 97, but it's as close as you can get for what's out there today and the way that they handle it and just the color palettes and just everything that shines through. Like, to me, this is the shit. Like, when you're trying to build a product off nostalgia, this is what I wish Star Wars would have done more, gone this route. And they just did a fucking, I mean, again, I've seen an episode and a half. It could turn to shit. But through an episode and a half, It was really friggin' good. And I even like the updated intro. It's you can tell they've re-recorded it, and it sounds good. And I like some of the look changes too. Right, like I think Storm looks pretty badass the way that she is now. Does Logan have a different voice actor than he did back in the day, or is that just age and it's showing through?
I think that's just age. Yeah, that's just age. It's the same guy. It's still Cal Dodd.
Couldn't tell. Like I felt like it was partly there, but you could also tell not the same as. I'm not saying it's. Um, oh my god!
It's not as gruff as what it used to be, for sure. But yeah, it's. But I mean, his voice has. I mean, that's got to be hard on the voice actor, just having to be like that the entire time.
Oh yeah.
Talking Star Wars wants to know, who do we think is holding the saber at the end of the Acolyte trailer? I'm going to go with Jar Jar's great grandpappy. Johnny will
God.
stand up and give a massive ovation to. I think it's probably the character that we follow throughout the trailer, the Amanda, or is it Amanda Stenberg? Amanda La? It's Amanda La, right? Not Amanda. Anyways, Amanda.
I don't know. I don't know the accurate
Yeah.
pronunciation of it.
May. The character's name May. I think it's May. I think it's her towards the end of it. I think the real question is who's standing at the cliff there, and I think that we're either looking at Plagueis or a different version of Plagueis's master. As much as this is going to be its own thing, it's still going to tie loosely into the Phantom Menace.
Yes, we're about to find out that Gungan lifespans are the same as Yoda's species lifespans.
Oh God,
that is in fact Darth Jar Jar, and he was actually undercover through the entirety of the prequel era as a Sith Lord.
Back, foul beast, back.
You really wanted to get toxic, don't you?
I would just pull out the popcorn and just watch Twitter for a few days and just like enjoy the crazy.
Let's talk some wrestling here. I'll touch on this on AEW, the Jack Perry stuff. I brought it up in our group chat the other day. As you well know, I'm a pro punk guy, but I'm also someone, Johnny sadly was a witness to it, who was definitely wronged when he was younger under weird circumstances, and not necessarily punished twice for the same thing, but punished once for something I never even did. And made a show in front of my classmates. I won't get into the details of that, but I got to tell you, this you don't know what level of it's true and what level of it's not. But it kind of, the reports that they scrapped the Jack Perry return just because Punk returned to WWE. Now I'm just talking simply under the hypothetical that it is true. That's kind of bullshit, don't you think? Like, does that not feel like unfair treatment of Jack Perry?
I mean, it is. It's that's the problem. It's like you don't know what's unless like Sean Ross Sapp or somebody comes out and actually legitimizes what's actually going on. I don't know what to believe half the time. So it's one of those things where I feel like somewhere in the middle is the truth. Maybe he is being punished, maybe he's not, or maybe he apologized, maybe he didn't. It's frustrating because it's not like he's a horrible wrestler. I mean, granted, he's not great on the mic, but I feel like at this point, if we're going to see him back on AEW TV at any point, I think the best bet is going to end up being probably Forbidden Door this year. Because at this point, there's really nothing for him to do. There's no real, I mean, unless you align him with somebody who can be a mouthpiece for him and he can be part of a faction.
Johnny, how do you feel about the Perry stuff? If again, this is coming from Wrestling Observer, so take it with a massive grain of salt. But if true, if this guy, is getting punished twice for the same thing, don't you think there's, I mean, I don't know what you can do about it if it's the owner doing it, but like, do you find anything wrong with that at all? Or are you just kind of like, whatever?
This one is tough for me because I firmly believe that everything that's coming out now is coming out as a work. I don't believe anything that's coming out at this point. I don't believe this. Uh, I don't want to say suspension story, but this, Tony's not talking to him. Tony doesn't. He does nothing. The New Japan storyline is all knows nothing. I don't buy any of that because I do not for a minute believe that New Japan is going to risk the relationship with AEW in such a blazing way. Like that. It makes no financial sense to me that New Japan would risk that relationship over, I hate to say this, someone as insignificant to their product as Jack Perry. He doesn't have the name cachet in Japan that helps him get over, other than he's a young upstart. So I do not believe that this is legit, like some people are trying to present it as. Do I think that they scrapped his return because of Punk's return and didn't want everything to be sort of at the same time? Yes, that does not sound that shocking to me. That's pro wrestling. That's the thing. If they were playing, especially if we don't know how long, a lot of there are some things that I don't question the validity of. Like they did a very one of the few times in pro wrestling that I've actually been sort of, wow, this is actually happening, was when Punk did show up at Survivor Series, because they did such a damn good job of making you think he wasn't. Like
Agreed.
everything they did that night was in service of, it's not happening tonight. You worked yourselves up and it's not happening, and then it did. So like I definitely believe that threw a lot of threw a wrench into the works. And I think that him doing what he's doing in New Japan right now is the best thing that can happen to him, or for him for that matter, because there's nothing for him to do in AEW right now. There's nowhere to slot him in up until now. Do I think there's a point now that he could come back? Yes, I very much do. And I would very much be interested in seeing it play out that way. But I don't, the vindictive, oh, he's been suspended. I don't believe that, because like it doesn't make sense for a host of reasons. No matter how pissed Tony would get about losing Punk, which I'm sure he was, it just, none of this is believable in the way that it's being presented.
I think one of the issues is you got a guy like Tommy Dreamer, who's close with Tony Khan, come out and say, hey, look, when people get disciplined in AEW, specifically suspended, they don't talk to them. They get suspended, they find out about the suspension, and then it's silence for a long time. Even Kenny Omega and the Bucks, you're talking weeks without interaction, apparently. And I mean, that's the way they choose to go about things. I don't think it's right, personally. I think communication is key in life, and I don't care fucking what you're running, professional wrestling, a school, the local variety store, or a condom shop. Communication is key. You got to know what color you want, or you end up giving up the shit as Halloween candy, aka Everyone Loves Raymond. But anyways, I hope you're right. I hope it's not like, oh, well, now I'm pissed off because not only did I lose him, he's back in WWE, so I'm punishing this guy more. I hope it's not that. That'd be stupid. That'd be immature, and it's hard to ask for a change of leadership with the owner, especially when the owner's not committing some of the atrocities as his counterpart, previous owner, did. So, like, it is what it is. I just, I might be pro Punk, but like, I don't want to see someone get punished twice for the same fucking shit. So I hope Johnny's right. And I will say this though, our buddy Matt messages me the other day, and he's like, "So did the AEW ratings go up?" And I was like, "No." And it's not just Matt saying this; it's everybody. Everyone's so obsessed with fucking ratings. And I think Johnny brought this up on our last episode of Welcome to the Geekside when we were talking about the Netflix deal. Is those style of ratings are going to become less and less important for all these guys, depending on where AEW ends up, when we know where WWE is ending up. And my advice to people, and you guys can have your 2 cents on this too, but would be if AEW is okay with only having, roughly the 800,000 mark on Dynamite, and Warner Brothers is okay with that and still going to give them a bunch of money, who gives a shit? Enjoy the product, let them pay their bills because they can afford to do so. Is a 1.5 million rating for whatever happening on Dynamite going to make you enjoy that show more? Now, theoretically, the bigger rating might mean it was just a wild, crazy show, but the rating number itself shouldn't add to whether you enjoyed it or not. It doesn't need to be this competition with WWE or anybody else or whatever else is on at the same time. It's so, I'm trying to think of the right word for this. It's tribalistic, really, in a way. And I just think people are so upset. Who gives a shit if AEW's ratings 800,000? If Warner Brothers doesn't care and they're fine with it, that's really all that matters at the end of the day, is it not, fellas?
I said it before and I'll say it again. In 2024, the overnight rating is the most inconsequential number in all of entertainment. Because it's not, Randy said it before the show when we were discussing next week's schedule. I can just DVR it. I can DVR the go home. Great. Your number is not going to be counted in the rating for Monday night. But it doesn't mean people still aren't watching it. It's not the overnight rating that's the significant number. Now, if we were looking at these as the, what is it? I think it's the plus 10 numbers, the overnight plus 10s is the other rating that Nielsen tracks, but they don't give those numbers out. That's the overnight rating plus the DVR watches after 10 days or something like that. That's the significant number because that actually shows the viewership. How many people are recording on Wednesday and then watching on Thursday or watching on Friday? Oh man, I gotta work. I gotta be at work at 5, 6 a.m. I can't watch Dynamite on Wednesday night, but I'll save it and I'll watch it on Saturday. It's insignificant.
I just think people have so unrealistic expectations, even on the WWE front, of what a rating should be, and they'll go back to well, this is what Raw did in 2002, and this is what Raw did in 2000, and it's people, it's 2024. Lives are busier. The entertainment industry's run differently, and there's a billion different things you can watch today compared to back then.
I just like to take those fans, sit them on their asses, and say, "Great, Raw's not doing a 7. The company's dead."
Right?
If we're gonna talk about ratings from 20 years ago, let's talk about ratings from 20 years ago. The Raw rating in 1999 was 6s, 7s, 8s. Even it peaked at, what was the highest rated segment? 9 point something?
Oh, you heard it. The Rock is tanking WWE. Well, that's it. Company's dead.
Jesus Christ, man.
Well, and you're talking back then, WCW was actually pretty competitive with them for a while and beat them in the ratings multiple times. So, but we saw what happened with WCW in the end. Think about it. WCW is gone, but WWE is still here. Look, ultimately, you know what? If it's consistent, consistency is the name of the game. And clearly, AEW is consistently putting up the numbers that, Warner Brothers Discovery is looking for. So if that's all if that's what it is, then, enjoy it. I mean, I've been seeing some absolutely phenomenal matches recently, whether it's Collision or Dynamite. And I'm telling you, that's one of the reasons why I prefer AEW is because I get a lot of wrestling. There's not a lot of filler, like last night with Raw, there was a lot of talking. And within the first hour and a half, 2 hours, there was only 4 matches. That's not great, but a lot of the talking forwarded storyline, pushed the storylines forward. So I get that aspect of it, especially since the go home show for WrestleMania is next week. But still, I like good wrestling matches, and AEW consistently puts those out. I mean, we're getting Shibata versus Will Ospreay tomorrow night. How insane is that? And some people may not know who they are, and some people do know who they are. And if you know who they are, I mean, we're all in for a treat. That's just all there is to it. Hell, Danielson versus Shibata on Collision was like a masterclass. And if you're not watching that type of wrestling match, you're missing out.
I think my biggest problem with AEW is, punk bias aside. I don't really care for how they're using the Bucks and what they're doing. And like, I don't think the majority of mainstream audiences even knows who the fuck Okada is. And some of the matches just feel over choreographed, and they don't feel, but I get it's professional wrestling, and people aren't out there to hurt anybody, but it's taken me out of it a little. It took me out of it when Punk was there too. Like I forget what's the guy's name. I was watching like a Commander match on Collision one time. This is going back like a year, and like he's doing his fucking the thing he does on the ropes where he's bouncing, but he messed it up, so he keeps doing it, and the guy's just standing there the whole time. I'm just like know when to pivot. Holy fuck. And I find that there's a lot of that. And yet then there's the stuff AEW does fantastic. Like I will take Swerve Strickland over probably anybody on WWE's roster right now. So I really,
WWE dropped the ball by letting him go.
He's dropped the ball by letting a lot of people go, but it sounds not that I knew who they were back then, because I did not. But yeah, I love the House of Black, obviously, and FTR, and there's great when Omega's in the ring and participating. He's great. I don't really care for Jericho shtick anymore, but I'm always for Adam Copeland stuff. Christian, like this is probably Christian's best run of his career the last year and a half or so. Like
and the main event match they had last week. Holy shit!
I hated that finish.
You hated it?
I
didn't see the finish. I just know who won.
Yeah, he had him handcuffed in the corner. Got out the spike bat thing. Got out Spike the bat. Hit him with basically a Shattered Dreams with the bat. Christian didn't give up, so he wound up to hit him in the head, and he just gave up.
It's a bit of a weird ending to an I Quit match, but cool that it was in Toronto. I seen there was like some crowd stuff too. So like they do a lot of stuff good. Like it's like any product, right? Like how many movies do you go to see in a movie theater and you go, wow, every facet of this movie impressed me. Like we just seen Dune 2 and I didn't like it as much as Dune 1. I thought there were things they did really, really well. And then I thought there were things that they didn't do very well. It's anything you get, right? Like if you're expecting perfection from something, your expectations are way too high. I think as just a casual viewer of wrestling shows, people should be thrilled with how much mainstream, at least North American mainstream wrestling you get now. Because to me, it's way more prominent than I ever recall, to be honest.
Great time to be a wrestling fan right now.
Speaking of which, let me bring up this name, MJF. We all think he's re-signed, right? There's nothing going on there.
Oh yeah, he's definitely re-signed. I just think right now it's just getting healthy, because it sounds like he had issues with rehab and that it really hasn't gone as well as he had hoped. So I'd rather them bring him back when he's 100% rather than just throw him out there just because he hasn't been on TV in a while. Besides, it's not going to do any good if Cole's not 100% too. So, I mean, I can't wait till we actually get that feud.
Sorry, is that still a storyline? Because it seems like
I would assume that would be MJF's first main thing he would want to do is take out Cole. So we'll see. I mean, at this point, it's just both of them getting healthy.
Johnny, you team MJF is re-signed?
I've been team MJF re-signed since like fucking November. Like, I'm sorry. Like, all of this is just ridiculous, and every time I see a fan who's like, "Oh, I can't wait for MJF to show up at WrestleMania and help Cody win that," I'm like, sit the fuck down and shut up. Like, that's never happening.
Well, in fairness, you did just say earlier this episode the CM Punk thing was never happening. That was your
True. True.
I'm with you, though. I think he resigned forever ago. But if he didn't, my God, could you...
Even if he didn't, as far as I know, the yearly cycle he would have been signed to a contract would have been May. Because he didn't sign right. He wasn't in that first batch. He didn't sign the actual contract until closer to the first pay-per-view.
Didn't he re-up, though, when he left for a short period of time? He restarted.
But we don't know the terms of that. Like, so it's still, you know, I do not believe that. I think the odds of him showing up, say at WrestleMania, are like
Slim to none.
0.25.
If you have $10
yes,
and you want
it's
to throw it on a
possible.
betting thing, throw $10 on. You might win a fortune, but like
Exactly, like it's
don't put $1,000 down on it, people.
like, is it possible? Sure, this is wrestling. I learned a long time ago to say never, but the odds of it happening are, you know, infinitesimally small. Like, I don't. I'm gonna be perfectly honest. If he was out of contract, like if his contract had expired, in the interim, they would have done a lot more to bury him on the way out. Like, if you know he's walking out the door, you don't let him walk out like that. It makes no sense. They've already had it happen. You know, you do not want to gift wrap the WWE the hottest heel in pro wrestling. And that's basically what they'd be doing if they just let him go like that. Like, it doesn't, you know.
Well, as the guy that thought the kangaroo kick stuff was stupid as shit, I don't know if I'm willing to call him the hottest heel in pro wrestling anymore. But it's like a sports team. Hey, if you have a quarterback who's 27 years old and his contract's up, you're probably not letting him just walk into free agency, or a star-studded defenseman who's 25 years old and his contract's up in hockey. You're probably not going to do the Maple Leaf thing and just let them walk out the door and get nothing for them. Yeah, I'm with you on this one. It'd be a cool surprise. I also don't know if it'd be as big as people like. I don't know if it'd be as big as people think it would be either. But you know, I'm guessing it's AEW having some fun pulling his merch down. So, just play into it more, right? What is it called? Bleeding the lines. I believe is a term.
Yeah, or the much more logical, he's not on TV, so you don't have new product to push, so you just let the old stuff sell out. Like,
I have a hard time believing it all sold out on the same day. You can't even access stuff now.
No, but it's all sort of trickled out. Like, there's been stuff going here or there to the point that now there's nothing left. But it didn't just go. You didn't just wake up one morning and, oh my God, MJF stuff's all gone.
Yeah, that, as far as I know, that's exactly what happened. Until someone could show me otherwise. At least that's what Fightful and everybody else was saying. Now, they weren't saying, hey.
Yeah, and they all reported Brock Lesnar's profile was taken down on WWE.com and then put back up 2 weeks ago. That worked out real well.
I don't know what to say to that. So.
that was you missed that one 2 weeks ago?
I seen it, but I also thought it'd be fucking stupid to bring him back. You know, it doesn't matter if he's entertaining or not. I believe that one also originated from Juan. So if people haven't realized that they're full of shit yet, I don't know what to say. Yeah. Anyways, we got like 5 minutes to go here, so I just wanted some quick thoughts on last night's Raw, and specifically just the direction WWE has been going since The Rock joined the board and TKO took over the last couple of months. The WrestleMania press conference stuff heading into the Royal Rumble. When Punk went back to WWE, I thought to myself, as somebody who hadn't watched WWE consistently in well over a decade, I thought to myself, ugh, I'm going to have to deal with these bullshit fucking camera switches and just terrible fucking shows that I'm bored out of my mind out of, and just PG level shit that I'm just not for. And it's been anything but that, to be honest. And it's just continuously gotten less PG the more we go here. just in general, Johnny, I'll shoot it over to you because I mean we spent a lot of time when we were younger talking during the Attitude Era. It's Brett transitioned to WCW and DX was becoming a thing. Do you like this current direction WWE is going? The more, I don't want to call it adult friendly because they're not putting on porn shows, but then again, you had a guy bragging about eating out his wife last night. So, who knows?
What you are seeing,
Which
are
went over my
anomalies.
head at first. Like it took me like 3 minutes, and I looked over at Jade. I'm like, remember, we're not watching it live. I'm just like, wait, did he mean? She's like, yeah. I'm like, oh.
And I'm also fairly confident he got back through the curtain and somebody said, yeah, don't do that again.
I wouldn't be worried about who behind the curtain says it. I'd be worried about going home then.
Well, I mean, but that's a different.
Yeah, I think she
that's a
kicked his
different
ass
issue.
right now.
But like people are pointing to two programs as being like, oh, it's the change, it's the change. No, it isn't. You're seeing the anomaly, and this is not the baseline. This is an anomaly. Like the Rock angle right now that you're seeing play out is playing out this way because of the Rock. Once he is out of the picture, which, don't kid yourself, is going to happen, my guess is probably immediately after WrestleMania or sometime very close to that. Because he is leaving, he's gone in May. Like, that's it. Sayonara, see you later. He's
disagree.
going to film a new movie.
Oh, for sure. He's going to film lots of new movies, but I don't think, I'm not saying you said this, but I don't think we're getting the Rock is disappearing and we're not going to see him for 3 years without an appearance.
Oh, no.
He's too important to what they're doing at TKO right now. Like, I don't think anybody would have had on their bingo card the Rock is going to make, I think I read last night, was the
he's at 10
10
televised appearances
in like 2 months or something.
Yep.
It's just like, what?
No, for sure. It's an anomaly. And I think
Well, he
you're
better,
going...
like, 'cause he's got a big responsibility, right? Like,
You're going to see it. My guess, and this is, again, just me playing it out in, fantasy booker mode. If you hated WrestleMania 27, I'm sorry, that's where we are again. Or was it 26? Whichever one was in Phoenix. Or not Phoenix, New York.
help me out here.
Miz Cena main event. Or Atlanta. That was Atlanta, sorry. That was 27.
Oh, so you think The Rock's coming out and screwing Roman?
I think we're going to get the year build. Because they're right. Rock and Roman is the main event at WrestleMania. It happens nowhere else. Like, there are a lot of people saying, oh, it's going to be, it's the Saudi, it's SummerSlam. It's neither of those things. It's not a Saudi, it's not a SummerSlam main event. Because, A, I do not think you will ever see The Rock make an appearance on a Saudi Arabia show. Ever. Because that is not good for The Rock's brand. So I do not think you will ever see that happen. It's not a SummerSlam match because SummerSlam is... It's SummerSlam, let's be honest. As far as the Big Four goes, it's number 3. At best. It doesn't have the cachet of the Royal Rumble, which has the Royal Rumble match. Obviously, it's no WrestleMania. The only thing it's better than is Survivor Series. And even that might be a bit more of a coin flip in the last few years.
I think as a fan, I don't want to see what you're saying might happen. Not because I didn't like that finish there to that event where Miz goes over, but because I think they have legs here now. Obviously, The Rock's very busy schedule, even outside of filming, people, dude's insanely busy. I would hope that there's room to continue, maybe not do stuff weekly with him. Obviously, that's not going to happen. But like, I don't think we need to lose heel Rock yet. I don't think I want to lose heel Rock yet because it's almost like he's the, what is it he's saying? The final boss. It's the whole being a part of the TKO board in terms of story power gone to his head. He's essentially replaced Mr. VKM and like I like the idea of doing that. And frankly, I'm assuming you guys have both seen the beatdown last night. I dug that. Was it the most captivating thing I've ever seen ever? No. I was like, you know what? Heel Rock works for me. And
Heel Rock's always been great.
I'd like to see them drag that out, especially if Roman's still on this contract where even once he gives up the belt, he's never going to be around. Then, I think I don't know. I hope that doesn't happen. I'd like to see Heel Rock last, but I could totally see what you're saying happen. It's probably a safe bet, to be honest. But
Heel
whatever.
Rock only works when he's on TV this frequently. Because it allows him to actually be a heel. Otherwise, you're going to have the Memphis reaction every week when he did that concert. You're going to get the pop. You're going to get the reaction because he's The Rock. Let's be honest. Like, he is, he's up here. Everybody else is down here, no matter who you are. And that's fine because The Rock is, he's at the pinnacle of Hollywood right now. He is global. He is worldwide. He is above wrestling, and that's fine. When he's there every week, he can be the bad guy because he can make it work.
Let me pitch this to you. What if he, as you said, he's going to be busy. We all know it. He's got so many different hats on. But what if he's there, for Mania and maybe through Mania for a couple of weeks, and then gone, and then he's there for SummerSlam on and off for 6 or 7 weeks, and then gone, and then there for Survivor Series. What if he's able to do the big stuff? And obviously, when I say 6 or 7 weeks, he's not just doing that for 6 or 7 weeks, people. He's appearing via pre-recorded clips at times, or he's flies in for the day or whatever, being the crazy schedule. If he's willing to do that, or he's actually going to have a build to the big events, are you still willing to, would you be willing to let him be heel? Or do you just think they go face?
I think they have to go face, and it's the victim of The Rock's own mania. I do not think heel Rock can go on the press tour for his next movie because he is not one to separate them well. I know that he can because obviously he was on Drew Barrymore's show 2 weeks ago, and obviously was not in heel Rock mode. But it just there'd be too much. If they want to use him more frequently, having him as a babyface is their better option because then they can use the press events to their advantage in a much better way.
Yeah, the Rock's movies haven't been doing all that great lately. So I don't know how much that would benefit or not. And honestly, this is backtracking a little bit to what we were talking about earlier in the show. The movie industry goes through the same thing that the wrestling industry is going through in terms of ratings. Like, look at when The Force Awakens and the Avengers movies and some of the other Star Wars movies were coming out. Those were considered hits when they were making $2 billion, $1.5 billion, $2.5 billion now. A hit at the box office today, you're looking at 700 million is considered a big blockbuster hit now. It's not a billion mark anymore. That's just not the way things work.
Well, until Deadpool and Wolverine comes out.
You know what?
There were two movies last year that crossed $1 billion.
Times are changing. That's why, I see a lot of the Star Wars fandom too go, well, don't worry, because when movie whatever, the Mando movie comes out, $1 billion. I'm telling you, they're making $1 billion, people.
They'll be happy to make 750.
They'll be very happy for that movie to end up in the 5 or 6 range if they're only spending about 130 on it and then another 100 on marketing. But everything fluctuates, changes with time. I want heel Rock to stay because I think you have the opportunity to have this God mode authority figure really just step on a lot of toes. But yeah,
well,
I agree with the Rock Roman thing in terms of it being Mania.
Well, and if you think about it, what you can do if you do decide to keep heel Rock around is you can have Roman have a redemption arc and eventually come back as a face. And I think that is something that they've pitched. I don't think The Rock was involved at the time they pitched it, but now that you have him, and obviously, as we're saying, the power has gone to The Rock's head, you could literally have The Rock go after Roman for, tribal chief and things like that, and just start gaining some sympathy for Reigns, even if it's not full blown within, say, 3, 4, or 5 months. You can bleed it over and play the long game and actually have it come to that culmination at WrestleMania, because we know they're going to have their match. We know it's going to be huge. It's going to be they're just going to sit there and they're going to promote it to the moon, and as they should. But yeah, the way The Rock is going right now, the fact that he was smart enough to understand he had to pivot and bring out this version of The Rock for all the press tours and for everything leading up to WrestleMania. It's just a brilliant move, and he's done an amazing job with it.
Yeah, I agree. Didn't save too much time left for this, but Punk, Seth, Drew, what do we think of the segment? Start with Johnny.
It's the segment that somebody in that gorilla position threw down their headset and the segment went off the rails. It was a great segment, but I don't, it's like I said, it's one of those segments that that was amazing, don't ever do it again type segments, like
I had that talk with my dad once when he seen me get into a fight as a 11 or 12-year-old. I don't know if Johnny was there or not. It happened right by Johnny's house, actually, coming out of a Faith Place dance, if you remember those.
I do.
And but we're right across from the police station, and I've just finished wailing on this guy. And again, we're kids at this point, and I don't notice that my dad has seen the whole thing happen. And I get into the car, and he's just like, "Well, you handled yourself well. That was great. I'm proud of you." I was kind of like, "Oh my God, like this is incredible." And we were supposed to go to Blockbuster that night, and I'm like, "That's how old this is." I'm like, and I noticed he wasn't going to Blockbuster. I'm like, "Are we not going to Blockbuster?" He's like, "No, you're grounded."
That's like that scene in Major League. Dude's like, "That was a great job. Don't ever fucking do it again."
I think that's what it was. Like it was a great segment, and this angle is being entirely built by Drew. This is one of those instances where he just
Made him so much better.
Take the ball. He grabbed the ball and ran away. And much the better for it, because it's, if I'm being honest, more interesting than Seth Punk would have been for me.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, but I never would have predicted that to begin with. As much as it's Drew running with it, though, it's not the same as if you're feuding Drew with, take Randy Orton, for example, right now. Maybe those two are feuding. You just don't have as much to work with there. But Punk, given what's happened and how he ended with AEW and even back in WWE, and like you got so much shit to reference. I'm finishing my morning shift and I'm looking down at my phone and there's Drew McIntyre in front of Mindy's Bakery, and I'm just like, this fucking guy. Like, how can you not love it? It's
even better when he gets there and they're closed.
Right.
That just plays the gimmick so much more.
Yeah, it was perfect. And I mean, I've seen Sean Ross Sapp said, the one group that did win from Brawl Out was Mindy's Bakery, and I tend to agree with that. So. Yeah, Drew has been fantastic. I hope that that's a contract that they have signed, sealed, and delivered by now, because it would be a real shame if Punk gets healthy, which he's apparently ahead of schedule. But I wouldn't be using that. I'd be saying take all the time you need and fucking build that thing up and quadruple wrap that thing when you get in there. But it'd be really unfortunate if Punk gets back and Drew's at the door to a different company. Like you have a match here that should just be a fucking, like we've seen The Rock, Cody Rhodes beat down. It should be that style match all over an arena, just two guys kicking the shit out of one another. I don't even care if Drew wins. Like, you've built something here off of Punk's name and Drew's incredible execution on it. Like, but like I said in our group chat the other day, like it's a little disappointing because, like, honestly, this is probably lining up to be a SummerSlam match. Can't see it happening before that. So, we're forever away from this thing, but if Drew can keep it up, why not?
Oh, I'm sure he will, especially, and you got to figure with Punk being at commentary at WrestleMania, it should be interesting. Just because, I like the line when he's like, "Oh, special guest referee, I couldn't be impartial with these two dipshits." I mean, it was like the perfect thing to say, even though they had to bleep him out. But it showed just how much animosity all three had for each other, and just keeps building and building. And I really can't wait to see the Drew Seth match, because I think that's going to be a barn burner. That thing's going to be amazing.
I might be a huge Punk guy. Maybe it's just me. You know, obviously I like the fact that he talks, and maybe his wife likes the way he uses his mouth. I couldn't tell you. But I don't know. Like, obviously he's going to get involved somehow, but it's like, other than that, you know, to me, it didn't matter. Ref, commentator, special guest time, like it didn't matter to me. And like, probably because, you know, I wanted to see him fight there, and obviously that wasn't going to happen. But hopefully they make the most of it. I just, you know, I think all three guys are handling it very, very well. But yeah, the MVP is Drew for sure. Just, he's done an incredible job, and I hope they find a way to carry it on. It would be unfortunate to not see another Punk thing that should be money result in no match because someone else leaves the company. So, hope it happens. We'll see. Oh, sorry. I got to bring this up. The Vince McMahon reference he made. I was just kind of like, when I heard that, I was like, oh, maybe don't go there. And I'm looking at the look on Drew's face, and Drew broke character just a little bit because he could not help but laugh. And you could tell he was trying not to. It was one of those, I'm not laughing. Shit, I'm laughing. And then the camera gets off of him. I would, as much as I like Punk, I don't think you need to reference McMahon at all, even if it is true in terms of storyline. I just think you stay clear of that. But I think the line that did it for me was probably a very unintentional one, where Drew tells the cameraman, "Don't shoot up my kilt, you pervert."
That was great. He just sitting there, his feet up on the table, and all of a sudden Punk says something like, "Keep it PG, Phil." I thought that was great too.
Yeah, it was a fun time. I hope that just pro wrestling stays this hot for months and months to come, because it's a wonderful form of escapism, and we all enjoy it. Once again, apologies for not getting to our solo Star Wars story watch along. We did about half, well, probably less than half, because we wouldn't have just went on and then started the show. So we were able to get out of here ahead of time. We will reschedule that. I don't know if it'll happen before a Siege of Mandalore arc, though. We'll have to talk about that and see what's the best route to go there. Byron, I did think it was fantastic. Sorry, buddy, I didn't see in the chat. Byron asks, we'll give him the last question, guys. I didn't see that. Will they have more liberty once they go to Netflix with the amount of cussing to be censored? For example, last night in Raw. I think that's just a given. But, you know, them being on Netflix is not the same as them.
Even Punk alluded to it. So, I mean,
how he ate AJ Lee's pussy show on Netflix. What's happening?
But I mean, he alluded to the fact that, yeah, well, we're not on Netflix yet, so I can't. And it's like, so I'm like going, okay. So he's hinting at the fact that they're going to be able to say more on Netflix, so which makes sense.
Yeah, no, not even a little. It'll be the same, because the sponsors are going to be the same, and it's not the network that's saying you can't swear. It's the sponsors. The sponsors are not suddenly going to say, you know what, you go ahead, you drop F-bombs if you want to. You say whatever you want to. No, that's not going to happen. You might get one
I
or
doubt
two.
anybody's going to say drop F-bombs, but I think they potentially could go a little more like what AEW does and allows a few things here and there. Because, I mean, Cody gets away with some stuff too. So
yeah, The Rock dropped F-bombs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so... again, The Rock, though, right? So I think they'll have more leniency. I also think their sponsors are going to change, because it's not the same as television, right? So
True.
It's going to be very interesting to see how they do things. And I would strongly advise everybody tune into the Mike Tyson Paul thing that's going to happen there, because it'll be, as far as I know, Netflix's first big sporting stream. No?
They had the tennis one last month.
Okay. Do you know how that went and fared?
It went better than the live streaming for that reality gimmick thing they did over the summer.
Well, and they did the SAG-AFTRA Awards as well, which seemed to go pretty good from what I saw. But I know they're starting to do more live events just because of what they're going to have to do for WWE. So
for sure. Anyways, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Actually, turn notifications to all to keep you up to date with everything going on with the channel, and be sure to make sure you check that YouTube hasn't unsubscribed you on their own. That's a thing, actually. A lot of content creators are talking about that lately, and just always double check. Big thanks to Randy and Johnny for being here tonight. Don't forget that we have Tonight in Haddonfield, which will actually be next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, followed by some version of the Legacy of Star Wars. Who's involved at 9 o'clock that night, we'll find out. And then Tuesday, and actually the 8 o'clock Tonight in Haddonfield show, we're sitting down with the director, the editor, the lead actor, and the lead actress from the Halloween Aftermath fan film that's being done, getting a lot of praise. They're getting a lot of coverage now, too, and they deserve it. So that'll be on Monday. And then Tuesday, Mike Bish will be rejoining myself and Dean. We're going to dive into a big... we thought it was going to be a horror movie roundtable, but we might actually be doing a watch-along that night. Might end up being Halloween H2O. So stay tuned for what ends up happening on that night. Welcome to the Geekside pops up here and there as we go. And we currently have a Halloween March Madness tournament going on, where you can place your votes today. And round one is in the books. We took Halloween 78 out of the ladder because, well, that probably ended up winning for most people. But we ended up having Halloween 2018 beat out Halloween 6, Halloween Kills beat out Rob Zombie's Halloween 1, Halloween 5 beat out Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, and Halloween Ends beat out Halloween Resurrection, setting up our round 2 matchups. If you want to vote on them, check the Legacy of Halloween out on Facebook or at Fandom Empire Now on X, Twitter, whatever you're calling it this week. Johnny, where can everybody find you? You got anything going on the Twitch side of things coming up?
No.
All right, because where you said you did. I thought a couple weeks ago you said you had some stuff coming. All right, Randy, how about you?
On X, you can find me at Giggity Giles. With March Madness going on, obviously we're going to be doing more Sports Brew. Just look up Sports Brew in Google, and you should be able to find us.
All right. Have a great rest of your week. Happy Easter if we don't talk to you before then. And have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy it. And again, one last time, shout out to our friend George, who is just an incredible dude, and we're thinking about you today, buddy. Stay strong.
Thank you.